Hey guys, Thief Mecha here, and I want to talk today about Final Fantasy XIV, what it's like for a new player, what you're getting into, and what you may not know and what the game doesn't tell you right away before you jump in with you and your friends. What I want to start off with is that this is a Final Fantasy game at its core, and what I mean about that is that the story takes center stage here. This is a very story-driven MMO. There is the main quest, your class quest, your job quest. There's a whole bunch of stories to be had here, and there are not just one linear story. And depending on what you choose, what class you choose, your starting area, it's all going to affect the overall experience for you. So the game has you start by creating a character, and based on the class that you choose will determine what starting area you begin in. And there's three different starting areas in the game. It's Ul'dah, Limsa Lominsa, and Gridania. And those are the three main ones there. If you guys choose the same type of class. So just for instance here, if you want to be a gladiator and your friend wants to be an archer, you guys are going to start off in different cities. And I think that's very important to know before you go in. If you guys are going to want to quest from the very beginning together, you guys are going to have to choose classes that start in the same exact area. Now, if you guys don't start off in the same area and you guys definitely choose different classes, that's perfectly fine, because after level 15, you're going to be able to travel, and then that way you guys can meet up after that fact and start doing dungeons and group content together. So now that I mentioned that there are classes and then there are jobs, so if you ever looked up this game, there's classes and then there's jobs, and what does that mean? So starting off from somebody that's just fresh, just jumping into the game. So for instance, I'm a gladiator, and I started off in Ul'dah because that's where gladiators start. And then from the first level 1 through level 30, you are going to be a gladiator. Now, after level 30, for all the classes, it turns into your ultimate class, which is going to be a job. So my gladiator is turning into a paladin. An archer turns into a bard. A thaumaturge turns into a black mage. A pugilist turns into a monk. So when we're talking about classes and jobs, it's just an evolution of your class. So you guys are still a pugilist, you guys are still a gladiator, you guys are still a tank, you guys are still a DPS, you guys are still a healer, depending on what you choose, but it's just pretty much growing your ability tree, and it turns into a different name. So my gladiator now at level 30 now turns into a paladin, and I start getting new abilities to add on to my gladiator abilities that I had from level 1 to level 30. So you guys are looking into this game in 2020, and you know that there are some cool new jobs that they've added to the game. The Dark Knight, the Gunbreaker, the Dancer, all of these brand new exciting classes that you want to be. So if you're just starting off with the game, it's good to mention here that you won't be able to have any of these classes off the bat. So these classes are available to you once you get to a specific story point in the game. So at level 50, you get the story for the Dark Knight. At level 60, you'll get the story for the Gunbreaker or the Dancer. So you won't be able to get them right away, and it takes time to get to level 50 or 60. So if you don't want to wait for that, it is a worthy mention that there are available level boosting options in the cash shop that you can purchase for $25 in order for you to get up to that level and start grinding those specific classes that you want. But if you just start off, you don't want to pay the $25 for the level boost. It's something that you're definitely going to have to grind to get to, because the game is very long. It has a very long story, and me playing consistently over the past 3 or 4 days, I'm only at level 36. So that just gives you a kind of an update here that you're not going to get to level cap overnight. This is not one of those MMOs that boosts you up with extra XP to get up to level 80 or whatever the cap may be. It takes a lot of time, and there's a lot of story, a lot of cinematics to go through in this game, and I want to make sure that everybody is known that you're not going to be able to access these unless you pay for them right away. Another thing that I want to mention of this game, and just to make sure it's clear to everybody that's jumping in, is if you guys want to party up and do quests together, this is definitely possible. But there are story quests and class quests that you have to do. That is a solo experience. And what I mean by a solo experience is that if you start doing your class quests, there's going to be instances where you have to jump into a story part, or you have to fight somebody, or it could be anything. And if you guys are in a party, you guys are going to have to disband the party, do your story quest, and then you can group up again afterwards. But you can't be in the same party and go through the story together. This is not a game where you do the story quests and the class quests together. This is something that you do it on your own as a solo experience, and then for the side quests, the open world events, the dungeons, there's a bunch of group content to be had here. But as for the main story and the class quests, this is something that you'd want to do on your own. And that brings me to my pros and cons list of this game. Now, I'm only level 36 and I haven't reached the end game content yet, but I've been having an absolute blast. So let's start off with the pros list first. We'll go into the cons and I'll give you my overall experience. Starting with the pros list here, I think that this game being on PS4 and PC is definitely a plus. So if you have a friend that has a console, most likely a PS4, or if you have a friend that has a PC and you are on PS4, you guys can actually play on the same servers together. And this is something that you don't really see in any other MMOs. This is definitely a plus for me. Number two, the world is absolutely beautiful and it has a day and night cycle, including weather changes and storms. I think this is a great way of establishing the world and making it more believable, that things can happen. You could be in the same place. It could be nighttime, it could be daytime, it could be raining outside. So that in itself is definitely a plus for this game. Number three is the convenient teleporting system. They have Ethernet shards, these huge shards that you see everywhere in the game, and it helps you travel across the worlds, in between cities, etc., things that you've discovered before. And I think this is a very helpful way of getting around, so that way it doesn't feel like a walking simulator. The story is rather good in the early game, and I think it's a great perk to have multiple storylines. So your class has a story, the main story in itself, you'll see a whole bunch of side stories with different villages that you discover throughout the game. So there's a lot of story to be had here, and I think that's a huge plus. Number five, the game is very flexible about the decisions you make. So if I am a gladiator now or a paladin now and I want to be something later, I can actually just switch to a pugilist anytime I want. I could just go to the pugilist guild, sign up for it, put that weapon on, and now I'm a pugilist and I'll have to level that up from scratch. So I think it's a very good way of having people try new roles that they might have not tried before. You're not locked into any specific role, and I think that's a very good plus in this game. And that goes into my cons list. Number one is grouping while doing story. So if you're in a story and you need to do an instance, like I'm going to have an instance coming up here in the gameplay that you're seeing, is that when I go into that instance, it'll say, hey, you need to be a certain level to play this. Now, if you're in a group, it'll force you to disband the group, and then you'll have to do it solo, and then you can regroup after the fact. So it doesn't even let you keep the group together. And I think this is definitely a negative, because you can't even solo together. You can't do it together. That person, your friend, can't see the cinematic that you're seeing. So I just think that's kind of an overall a negative, because it's an MMO and you want to experience everything together. Number two is I wish there was more voice acting in this game. So there is voice acting in some instances, in some cinematics, but then in the very next line or the very next scene, it'll seem like there's absolutely no voice acting at all, and you have to read it like an older JRPG or any of the other Final Fantasy games that you've played previously. You're going to be kind of used to this. You're going to have to read a lot of the story, so I think that's a very big negative, and it can be jarring for people, especially going into 2020. Number three is no open world drops or open world chests. If you walk around and you see these encampments and you decide to just venture off on your own, you're not going to be able to really find anything. So the open world drops, there's none at all. There's no open world chests, none at all. The only things that you can pick up would really be in dungeons. So if you're killing something in the open world, they'll drop like an animal skin or maybe something for crafting, but it will not drop any like epic or rare gear just by walking around and killing things. So I just think that is definitely a negative, and it would be nice to have random drops happen while you're questing sometimes, or maybe you're taking something on that's a little bit higher level than you, something that would give you incentive to go out and explore. So my overall experience, I really love this game. I've had a blast with it. I definitely recommend getting a guild together or joining a guild that's already established. I've joined one that was very, very great, and they're very helpful. And having a community that can help each other out in dungeons or play different roles, I think it's very essential. So over my overall experience, I definitely recommend this for anybody that's played a Final Fantasy game before. If you really love Final Fantasy, this is the game for you. If you guys are not fans of previous Final Fantasy games, I don't know if you guys are going to like the slower paced JRPG story, but overall, I think this has something for everybody who loves MMOs. So I think this is definitely worth a try. That's it for me, guys. If you can like, comment, and subscribe below, I will catch you next time.